Hello, everyone. Welcome to Vanished Chicagoland Stories, the podcast. I'm your host, Pete Costanis, and this is episode 56, season 3. And today's date is September 5th. And we're going to have an interesting show today. We're going to do the show after we left off from yesterday, celebrating the 60th anniversary of Bozo Circus on WGN-TV Channel 9. And the show debuted in September 11th, 1961. Yesterday's program, I discussed the history of the show, and today I will do some more reminiscing and some more history of the show. I will talk about the cast, and then anything that will come to my mind as I speak to you. Right now, I'm going to play the introduction of the show, which you heard yesterday. So here is Ringmaster Ned starting the show. Enjoy.
Bozo's Circus is on the air. With Bozo, the world's greatest clown. Oliver, oh Oliver. Sandy the Tramp. Bob Smith, Bob Tremble and his big top band, Ringmaster Ned, that's me, and a cast of thousands.
Okay, I'm back. I'm glad you liked the introduction. Once Mr. Ned or Ringmaster Ned, I always called him Mr. Ned to me because he was like a father figure while I was watching the show. When he blew that whistle and they started beating the drum, you knew you were hooked. You were hooked and watched the rest of the show, and also the introductions of the clowns. Anyway, this is part 2 of my podcast. I will discuss further of the history of the Bozo show. I'll talk about some more reminiscing when I was little when I first watched it. We didn't own a color television set back then. We lived in an apartment in the South Shore neighborhood, and the first time I saw Bozo was about 1967. Maybe I was 4 years old, maybe earlier than that, probably 3. I told the story about on my earlier podcast that a friend of my mom's came over and she wanted to watch her soap opera As the World Turns, and it was on the same time as Bozo. But when I looked at the clock on the wall, it was 12 o'clock, and then I said Bozo, Bozo. I changed the channel on Channel 9, and I interrupted her soap opera. She was not happy, from what I've been told. But she was a sweet lady. She was like a grandmother to me. My mom was best friends with her. Anyway, that Bozo aired at 12 noon every day on WGN Channel 9. And back then, a lot of kids went to school, and then they went home for school for lunch, and then they watched the show, and then they had to rush back to school. They stopped that in 1980. The Chicago Public Schools did that, so there was no point of airing the show at 12 o'clock. So they moved it to early in the morning at 7 o'clock. I think I'm not sure. Is it before Ray Rayner or after Ray Rayner? I don't remember. I have to check. Anyway, getting back to 12 o'clock, I used to watch the show in the summertime. I used to watch the show every day, and then during school, I was in kindergarten when I came home from school, but I had a half a day. So that was easy for me. I didn't have to go back to school. And as soon as my mom made lunch, and then I watched the show. And then after Bozo aired, at 1 o'clock was the television series Hazel, starred Shirley Booth, and I got hooked on that show, and I started watching her. Which incidentally, her 60th anniversary is coming up at the end of September. I will talk about her and the show and my memories of watching on Channel 9, and that should be interesting. So that should be around the end of September. Anyway, so I remember, and that was a great combo, watching that. And I remember watching the grand prize game, and Bozo clowning around, getting into trouble, or have Cookie the clown get in trouble, and Oliver Roll Oliver. But I think Cookie started like in the late '60s, so he started '69, probably '68, '69. So I probably didn't really remember him. I remember him from the '70s. Anyway, so when we moved out of South Shore and moved to Roseland, I still watched Bozo, but the thing is, I started school. Yeah, but it was at a private school. It was it was a Greek school, and I still go to the church at St. Constantine and Helen. It's a wonderful church, wonderful people. And the thing is, the school bus picked us up because it was located in South Shore on Stone Island Avenue, and right now it's the mosque. I forget the name of the mosque. So it was Louis Farrakhan. You know, I think he owns it, or just he does services there. Anyway, so I didn't watch the show at all except in the summer, and then we moved to Ashburn in 1974. I still didn't watch it because we still had to go to school, and the bus picked us up. We didn't get home till 3 o'clock, but I did watch Ray Rayner a little bit in the morning, so that helped. Or Garfield Goose. Anyway, so then I went to high school. It started in 1977. Didn't watch the show at all, but it was still on, and I still watched it. On reruns. I don't know. As a teenager, people make fun of you watching that, but I didn't care. I loved it. I really did. And then, later on, and then it changed. And then in 1984, Bob Bell retired as Bozo, and Joey Daria took over. And I've seen a few shows. He's okay. He was a good Bozo, but he wasn't our Bozo that we grew up. Because a lot of people frown on him, or didn't like him, which is not fair. I thought he was a very good performer, very good actor, and he related to kids very well. I saw an interview of him. He said it depends on the children. Some kids are younger loved him and hugged him. Older kids, like maybe 4 or 5, they just scream in horror when they saw him. Anyway, so and then the show moved from noon to early in the morning, and it was 90 minutes, and then that lasted until 1994, and actually it went for 2 hours. So then they expanded, and then it went back to an hour in 1995 until the end, and then they changed it was from Bozo Circus to the Bozo Show. Even before that, when Bob Bell was on the show, and then they changed it to the Bozo Super Sunday Show. Now, to tell you the truth, I did not see it on Sundays. I don't know why. I don't know. Maybe I lost interest, I guess. And then when I found out that it was being canceled in 2001, that was a big shock to me and to the fans and everyone in Chicago, that this classic is gone. And they claimed that it wasn't making money. And cable came over, and kids weren't interested. They were interested in music videos, animation on cable, like Nickelodeon, the Cartoon Network. So there was no more, and that was the last local children's television show, which is a shame. I did watch the final episode, the 2 hour special. I remember watching that. It was pretty good. It was very nice. And but you can still the tapes of the show has been erased, so there's very few circling around, on the YouTube or anywhere like that. And so we have memories of that. We have memories. So, okay. Right now, I'm going to take a little break. And right now, I'm going to play a little clip from the grand prize game, which I did play on yesterday's episode, on episode 55. So listen to Ringmaster Ned introducing the grand prize game.
Are you all set for more fun? Good, because right now it's time to play our grand prize game. The whole world wants to play the game, but of course there isn't time for that. Our players, one boy and one girl, will be chosen by the tips of the magic arrows. Mr. Bob, please.
Okay, I'm black. Excuse me. Okay, I'm back. I said black. Isn't that funny? When you're trying to speak, you replace words like that. Terrible habit of mine. Forgive me. Anyway, so I'm back, and I hope you enjoyed the grand prize game. Oh, I love that game. You know, once you get hooked, when you see starting to see that, you get hooked, and then the fun part is with the magic arrows. And they do that song, and then either they get a mother or someone's arm that didn't count. Sometimes it landed on the clown. Sometimes it got on Bozo. I remember on Bozo's nose that the arrow landed. It was hilarious. And then also on Cookie and Oliver. And one time, I remember Mr. Ned got the arrow. I don't know who ran this thing. You know, maybe they got a guy who was nearsighted. Anyway, it was fun. And then the best part of the game, I mentioned this in the other episode. The best part is the prizes that they awarded to the kids that they once they played the game and they placed the ball in the bucket. You know, they had a lot of board games, classic board games like from Milton Bradley, Parker Brothers, Tonka Toys, Fisher Price. Oh, wonderful game! I loved that, you know. And that every time I saw a toy, I asked my mom, I pleaded with her, I want that toy. I want that toy. I did that a lot. Most of the time she did, but she says, no, I'll buy it for your birthday or your Christmas. I mean, she was right. I was mad, but she had to teach me responsibility, and she didn't want to spoil me, and I'm glad she did. You know, because other parents I see, they don't do that. They give them what they want, and it's a shame. Anyway, so and I remember a couple times on the show where they would introduce something, and you would hear Bob Bell as Bozo yelling or laughing, and then they would say, "All right, it's time for." You know, for like for a cartoon, you know, like Rocky and Bullwinkle, and Bob Bell will go, "Yay!" and you hear him like that. And it's funny, and then after the cartoon ended, and then the camera goes back to the audience, and everyone starts clapping, and then I would hear Bozo going, "Oh yeah!" and they're all, I love it. He was hilarious. He was a wonderful man. I will talk about the cast. Not everybody, but in future episodes, maybe I will. You know, this won't be the end of me discussing Bozo Circus up at the anniversary. I will talk about it all throughout the month, you know, about the cast and the set and all that, and a little trivia. So it'd be kind of fun. Also, here's another piece of trivia. I remember someone said that when they had the blizzard of 1967, they had a show on, and people were waiting outside the snow, and it got so heavy and came down, you know, ferociously, and they waited for the show, but then they decided no, it was canceled. They told them to go home. I don't know how these people went home in all that snow. It was dreadful. You know, so they canceled the show. That was one of the times they canceled the show. The other time was when they had the show on where President John F. Kennedy was assassinated. And I said this in the episode yesterday, that someone whispered in Ringmaster Ned's ear and told him, you know, what happened. And he had full composure. He didn't react or anything. He did the best he could. He didn't want to disappoint the kids. He didn't want to scare them. And that was wonderful. And it was during the grand prize game. And then once the game ended, I think somebody from WGN management decided, no, we can't continue. We got to send these people home. But I don't know if someone from the show told the audience what the reason was. Maybe they did. I don't know. Maybe it's possible. I don't know. That would have been interesting. very interesting for that. Anyway, as for the cast, let's see. Well, actually, right now I'm gonna play a clip. This clip is a favorite of mine and other people's. Is when Ringmaster Ned asked that famous question, "Who's your favorite clown?" So I'm gonna play that right now, and I'll be right back.
Give me a loud answer to this question. Who's your favorite clown?
That's me!
Okay, I'm back. That was a famous question, and it's wonderful. I love Bozo's laugh when he did that. It's pretty amazing and memorable. I just love it. Okay, I'm going to talk more about the show, and actually, I'm going to talk about some of the cast members. And I did talk about yesterday. I talked about like the lesser known ones, so I'll go into more depth of that. As I said in yesterday's episode 55, that Bob Bell did not appear on the first episode of Bozo Circus. It was like a management snafu. I don't know who was in charge at the time. Maybe he wasn't thinking. I doubt something like that. If someone did that today, that was considered ridiculous and stupid, and he should be fired, for something like that. Anyway, so he did appear in the second show, and then the rest was history. It was wonderful. Anyway, in the early months of the series, they had a clown. He was an acrobatic clown, and his name was Wimpy. And he worked on the show for a few months, and he continued to make guest appearances until the mid-1960s. And Wimpy was played by someone named Bertram William Hiles. I searched the internet for him, and I couldn't find anything about him. Where he was from, and what his background, or if he's still alive, or anything. Nothing about that. And there's no photos of him. I wish there was. So he's like, it's driving me crazy. I like to search and find something about him. But no, I couldn't find anything. So if I do stumble upon it later on, I will mention it in a future episode, and we'll see. And then in October 1961, Don Sandberg joined the show. And he was the producer, and he wrote the sketches, and he was a mute clown. His name was Sandy the Tramp. But sometimes they call him Sandy the Clown, Sandy the Tramp. It depends on the show. And he was a mute, like I said, he was a mute clown. And he was inspired by, by Harpo Marx. And then comedians that didn't speak, like, for example, Charlie Chaplin. They didn't talk like that. And then you have one half of Penn and Teller. And, I didn't remember much about Sandy. He was in the 60s. So by the time I got older, like about 5 or 6, when I watched in the 70s, he was gone. He went to California, and he produced Banana Splits. And I had no idea until later on. I found out because I loved the Banana Splits. I used to watch the reruns on Channel 32, when I came home from school. You can get that theme song out of your head. And anyway, and then in November 1961, Ray Rayner joined the cast as Oliver Rolver, and a country bumpkin from Puff Bluff, Kentucky. That's pretty good. And he was hosting the Dick Tracy show, and it premiered the same day as Bozo Circus on September 11, 1961. I might do a show about that, do a podcast episode about the history of that. It'd be very interesting. And then he replaced, he did Ray Rayner and his friends, and he replaced the host was Dick Coughlin. He was the host of Breakfast with Bugs Bunny. There's a picture. I have a TV guide, TV preview of he was on the cover, so he's a very interesting man. I will do some research about him. Anyway, so let's see what else. And then Bob Trendler led the Big Top Band. He also led the WGN Orchestra. A long time ago, I noticed on eBay somebody sold an organ from Bozo, like a musical, the organ that was on the Bozo show. And that was like, I don't know, about 10 years ago. And it was sold. That was interesting to see that. Somebody probably bought it, or it was owned by maybe one of his relatives. And he was selling it on eBay, which that was interesting. And let's see what else. And then, so they rounded up the cast. And then Bob Bell got sick in October 1968. He had a brain aneurysm, and he was not on the show for a few months. And Don Sandberg, who played Sandy, wanted to leave the show, but he stayed until Bob Bell recuperated. So that was nice of him. And they had another clown while Bob Bell was out, and he was the floor manager at WGN. And his name was Richard Shiloh Lubbers, and he was Monty Melvin. And he appeared on the show for a little while. And then Roy Brown joined the cast as Cookie the Cook. He was periodically, and also then Don Sandberg left the show in 1969, and then Bob Bell returned in March of that same year. And then you had Marshall Brodeen, who played Wizzo the Wizard. And he was not on the show all the time. He was there, he was a semi-regular, and then he appeared on the show more frequently as time went on. He was a scary looking guy, but I loved him. He was hilarious, with the Stone of Zanzibar. That's funny like that. Anyway, so and then let's see what else, and then a lot of people wondered about Bozo's suit. At first it was red and then it was blue. And there are photos of him with the red suit. I like both. But then in 1970 they changed it. And then, here it is. Larry Harmon insisted he change it to blue. Larry Harmon owned the character. He was very, very strict, And okay, it was fine, but I don't know about how Bob Bell felt about that. Maybe I don't know, but I guess it was okay with him. He was not, because he was very respectful. So he did that, and then during the '60s, they had a primetime version of Bozo Circus. It was called Big Top, and it aired on Wednesday nights from 1965 to 1967, only 2 years. And it was only ran from September to January, so it wasn't all year round. So, they couldn't do both. That was too much work like that. And then, so they showed that on WGN. They showed that on a special, the Lost 1960s version that Dean Richards hosted from WGN. And that was interesting to watch. Okay. And then, so I have not much time, so let's go real quickly. Then Ray Renner left in 1971, and he was replaced by an actor named Pat Tobin. He played Oliver's cousin, Elrod T. Potter. And then they had a magician. His name was John Thompson. He was a friend of Roy Brown and Marshall Brodeen as Clodhopper. I couldn't find any pictures of Clodhopper. I can't find them anywhere. Elrod T. Potter, I did find photos of him. I will post them on my social media accounts. You will see who he was. He was an actor. And also John Thompson was an actor. They appeared. I think Pat Tobin died. I think he did. But I think John Thompson's still alive. And sometimes when Ned Locke was absent, Ray Rayner returned to the show as Oliver. He took over, which is fine. Couldn't appear all the time. And then, so I'll talk about some more on my next episode and continue there. Well, I'll talk about the 70s. I'll go into more depth, as the show progressed, and talk about at the end where Bob Bell retired in the 80s. Okay, so that'll be all for today on this show. I'm glad you could join me. This is episode 56, Season 3, and this is part 2 of the 60th anniversary of Bozo Circus on WGN-TV Channel 9. I'm your host, Pete Costanis, and I hope to do another show probably Tuesday, and I will discuss the part 3 of the anniversary show. Going to be a lot of fun. And I will talk about, like I said before, the 70s and the 80s, and then hopefully I'll talk about the Joey Daria. I can't pronounce his name. I got trouble with that. I will talk about him and the show and this character. So it'd be very interesting. Okay, I'm signing off now, and right now we're going to have the Grand March led by Bozo, and I'll talk to you soon. Take care, everybody, and have a good day. Bye-bye for now.
And of course, we thank you very much for letting us be with you. We hope that it was an enjoyable hour for you. It was for us, it always is. And now, if you will, stand up, please, and join us in our Grand March.